Coming up next on Flightline News, NTSB member Earl Weener came to Embry-Riddle. Find out about his visit. And ever hear this and wonder what it is? Find out how it keeps your flight a little safer. This and much more as Flightline News starts right now. Hello and welcome to Flightline News. I'm Bob Thomas. Embry-Riddle's annual Family Weekend will take place February 8th through the 10th, and you and your family are invited. The College of Aviation has set up a variety of events that you can enjoy with your family and friends. You can sign up for the tours and activities and events presented by the College of Aviation on a first-come, first-served basis during the welcome breakfast on Saturday morning in the Landing Strip restaurant. Some of the aviation-related experiences that you and your family can participate in are tours of the College of Aviation facilities, including our 3 new buildings, the Pre-Flight Challenge, a day in the life of an air traffic controller, TV weather broadcasting, the jet engine startup, an open forum with faculty and staff, 7th annual cookout with faculty and staff, spatial disorientation in high-altitude labs, flight observation, and many more. If you have any questions, please contact Brittany Branham in the College of Aviation Dean's office or call 386-226-6836. You may have noticed that the National Weather Service Doppler radar in Melbourne has not been working since December. A new hangar built at the Melbourne airport blocked part of the radar beam, and in order to fix the problem, the National Weather Service has constructed a new radar tower that is 33 feet higher than the old one. It now measures 113 feet high. The additional tower height will prevent a blockage of the beams in the low-level scans to the south and southeast, which is the primary direction for most approaching hurricanes. The radar currently is back up to full operational status as of January 29th. The Embry-Riddle Flight Department is accepting applications for part-time instructor pilots. You must be a student enrolled in courses here at the university and possess both a CFI and CFII rating. Anyone interested can apply online through Student Employment, which is found on ERNI in the Student Services section, and attach your uploaded resume to the online application. It's not necessary to bring anything to the Chief Flight Instructor's office to apply. A reminder that the Flight Department is offering a 10% discount during spring break. The discount will be available between March 18th and March 24th and applies only to the aircraft dry rate and instructor rates. As always, discounts are subject to aircraft availability and rentals are not included. Make sure to make your spring break plans now and be sure to tell your training manager if you plan to stay. Just a reminder, since it is the beginning of the new year, now is a good time to check the expiration date on your ramp security badges. If it's expired or if you have any questions about ramp security, visit Scott Mosier in his office on the first floor of the Flight Operations Building. The Honorable Earl Weener, a member of the NTSB, came to visit Embry-Riddle last week. He's responsible for improving general aviation safety on the NTSB's Most Wanted list. He gave a presentation in some classes to educate students on the role of the NTSB and what he wanted to learn while visiting Embry-Riddle.
The role of the NTSB overall is to improve transportation safety, and we do that by investigating accidents and doing safety studies. The board NTSB is a fairly small organization by Washington, D.C. standards. We have about 420 staff and 5 board members. So the staff does the technical work. The board members are really representatives of the general public. The board members are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. So from some of the data I've seen about the program here at Embry-Riddle, I'm quite impressed with the way that whatever you're doing, you've managed to drive your accident rate to be just a fraction of what the accident rate is out there. To me, that tells me, great, somebody knows how to do it. It's possible to get the accident rate down. To improve general aviation safety, there are a lot of different players that have to get involved. And I wanted to get a sense of how Embry-Riddle saw general aviation safety, what you saw as the challenges in general aviation safety. Look for areas that perhaps from the NTSB point of view, I can go push on, I can advocate. So it's a matter of understanding your view at Embry-Riddle of general aviation safety and me then trying to figure out how I can work with what I've learned in the general community.
A runway excursion is where an aircraft goes off the pavement and onto the grass on the side of the runway or taxiway. In the past few months, Embry-Riddle has had 2 runway excursions with aircraft going off the runway into the grass. With the higher number of solo activities happening this time of year, here's Justin Johnson and Mike Geiger with some tips on how you can prevent this from happening to you.
Recently, in the last few months, we've had a couple of excursions from the paved surface to grass, be it a taxiway or runway. We have a high quantity of solo students at this time of year trying to get their solos done. So we've identified that there is a higher risk for runway or taxiway excursions, and we're trying to get the education out there, identifying that the most important part of a landing is not just the landing, but the landing roll itself.
Here are some tips to help prevent runway excursions. When I'm cleared to land, I want to make absolutely certain that I will land on the first third of the runway. Controlling final approach speed is an absolute must. Did you know that if you come in 5 knots fast on final, you will use 50% more runway? When in doubt, go around. Don't stop flying the airplane either when the mains touch down on the runway. It's important to continue to fly the airplane utilizing aerodynamic braking. I do this by adding back pressure on the yoke and placing the top of the blue cowling at the end of the runway, and keep it there. This will slow me down to the point where I only need minimal braking before turning on a taxiway. Finally, don't take a turn too fast. Be at a slow walk before we turn. And don't be afraid to tell ATC unable that you cannot make the taxiway. It's never a good idea to slam on the brakes just to make a taxiway. These brakes don't work well at a high rate of speed anyway. Just keep these tips in mind and be safe.
Since 1990, there have been over 120,000 wildlife strikes involving airplanes, and each year it continues to be a concern to aviation. Last year at Daytona Beach International Airport, there were approximately 25 reported wildlife strikes. I went out to find out how the Daytona Beach Airport mitigates wildlife concerns at the airport. I'm here with Steve Ward of Daytona Beach Airport Operations, and we're talking about wildlife mitigation. Steve, tell me a little about your job and what you do here at the airport.
Well, I'm an airport operations agent, and besides doing all the inspections on the airfield, we also have to manage the wildlife. And this airport has a variety of wildlife. We have birds and we have mammals. So part of our job is to be out here to disperse the birds whenever we see them or whenever we're called by the tower or reported by the aircraft. Of course, we also have to be on the lookout for our four-legged friends. We have some foxes, some coyotes, no more deer, they're gone. And then we have a bobcat and the usual raccoons and possums and a couple of otters. We routinely take alligators out of here at about an average of 1 per year. And the most famous one was the one that showed up one morning at Gate 2 sleeping next to the Delta MD-88. And he was actually sleeping next to the left main gear when they went out to do the pre-flight at 5 a.m. And it was a 6-foot alligator, so they had to wait till the trapper came out and remove the alligator before they could pre-flight the aircraft. So basically when we come out here, we get our guns out and we discharge our guns to disperse the birds. We don't use any live ammunition, it's all pyrotechnics. We do not kill birds. We're a no-kill airport. We're permitted to kill, we have a permit, but we've always been a no-kill airport. We would rather just harass them until they leave. Some of the guns are actual real guns, some are not real guns. They're sort of like a cap gun. The first one I'll show you is the what we call the 15mm launcher. It's actually a starter pistol. It's got primers in there, and it's actually just converted to shoot some of the pyrotechnics. You could actually shoot it just like this and it would sound like a cap gun like you had when you were a kid. And that's basically what it does. However, every time you shoot it, it shoots a little flame out, and that flame ignites a little rocket motor that's attached to the pyrotechnic. And the rocket motor burns for a few seconds to propel the pyrotechnic away from you, and then it explodes. This is what they call a banger, a bird banger. It'll go about 100 feet away from you before it explodes, and it sounds like a very, very, very large firecracker when it explodes. This is a screamer siren, and it's basically like a bottle rocket, and it actually will go about 275 feet away from you, and as it's moving away, it sounds like a bottle rocket. It lets off a very obnoxious scream, so it's called a screamer siren. These cost about 40 cents each, and we try to be cognizant of what they cost because we're run by the county, and we spend about $12,000 a year on pyrotechnics. This is a regular 12-gauge shotgun shell, and we use a regular 12-gauge shotgun. And these go about 300 feet in the air, and then it'll explode. These are about $1 a piece. And then our largest gun, this is actually a 37mm grenade launcher we got from the SWAT team. And the cartridge it uses is very expensive. They're about $7.50 each. They're handmade. And again, it's the same thing. You load it, put it, shoot it, and this will go about 475 feet before it explodes. These are very, very loud. These are really good for circling vultures when you need to get something high up in the air. So depending on where the birds are at, what type of birds they're at, that's the type of pyrotechnic you'd want to use. That's why we have 4 different types. This is one of our kites. I believe they are designed by a gentleman in England, and they cost about $15 each. They're made out of a mylar material, so they withstand the weather to a point. We've had good luck with them scaring the egrets. They don't really do much for the small birds and the raptors like the hawks and the eagles, and we have about 9 of them on the airfield right now. So these are very friendly to the birds. They're not like the shotgun shells where it scares the heck out of the bird. This is a more of a passive way to discourage the birds from landing in the area, because this has become a hot spot. As you can see, all this grass here attracts a lot of birds, but by having a cannon here going off during daylight hours, it actually will keep all the birds out of here forever. And like I said, it will go off. It starts about 8 o'clock. It wakes up about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it goes to sleep about 6 o'clock at night, because there's not that many birds here at night. And we have it programmed to go off about 3 or 4 times an hour. These are actually only good for about an acre. That's all the manufacturer says they're good for, is to clear about an acre of grass or weeds. But it's done really good here because we have no more birds living in this area of the lake. While we're passing this remotely controlled cannon here, I'll see if it'll fire.
4903, approved as requested.
We have 5 of these on the airfield. We actually have 10 cannons. 5 are remotely controlled. This is the number 3 cannon. And in theory, as long as you're within about a quarter of a mile of it, it should fire. So if birds were in that area, you should be able to just push this button. See if it fires. And you can see it fires. It also rotates a few degrees every time it fires, so it's never firing in the same direction. And if you'll watch it, you see it moves just a little. It's got a deflector on it, so it deflects the propane coming out of it, so it actually moves every so often, so it's never firing the same direction twice. Pilots do a good job of looking for the birds, and if they see them and they let us know, we'll come out and disperse them.
Thank you to Steve Ward and the airport operations staff. An unfortunate byproduct of aviation is the noise associated with low-altitude maneuvering, such as traffic patterns and ground reference maneuvers. As cooler temperatures arrive during the winter months, more people tend to open their windows, making the airplane noise even louder.
We're starting to receive a lot of noise complaints from the local airports. The first one is Ormond Beach Airport, where we're receiving complaints that the airplanes are flying in and out of there after 2200 at night. The other airport that we're receiving noise complaints is Daytona Airport, where we have multiple airplanes flying south of Bevel, creating a problem for the noise. So please remember to be polite to our neighbors.
Please take some time to review the noise abatement procedures located in the in-flight guide, and remember to do what safety allows to continue to be polite to our neighbors in the area. The Aviation Safety Department held a paintball retreat as part of the President's Safety Day Award for all the Flight Department personnel to show their appreciation for all their efforts in improving safety. 150 people, including flight instructors, maintenance, and dispatchers, attended the all-day event. Next time on Flightline News, the Joint Aviation Steering Committee along with the NTSB has recommended angle of attack indicators be installed on GA aircraft. Find out about the types of indicators that Embry-Riddle is testing to determine what will be installed across the fleet. If you'd like to send us your comments or suggestions for future stories, send us an email at specialvfr@erau.edu. That concludes this episode of Flightline News. I'm Bob Thomas. Thanks for watching.